first caller here. Forrest, this is a theist caller. His name's Dondi.
Okay.
I pronounce him from the Philippines. He's a theist.
Mm-hmm.
And he's coming in with a question. Can science debunk the evidence of God? Now, I personally feel like there's quite a bit to unpack there just in that sentence.
That's a lot.
But let's hear it from the source. Dondi, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys clearly. Good afternoon.
Wonderful.
It's morning here in
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. I know Forrest would as well. I'm going to stop talking here in a second because I'm sure there's a delay. Tell us a little bit more about your question.
Oh, yeah. Before anything else, would just like to say that my partner is an atheist. I'm a theist. He's a big fan of the show, wanted to drop on here. But my question would be, can science debunk the evidence of God? So that's my question. I can expound more, but I began to realize that the evidence of God, although not proof, is certainly interesting to me. I'll zero in the Big Bang Theory, wherein the universe began about 13.17 billion years ago. It did expand, but there's something that none of the research that I did, scientists can go past the point, or science itself can go past the point of, or beyond the point before the singularity. So when the Big Bang Theory started, there's precise tuning of physical constants in the universe. Like, for example, law of gravity, speed of light. Now, if gravity was tweaked a little weaker, we would just be an infinitely expanding sterile universe. If it was a little more stronger, right after the Big Bang, it would be a big crunch. So that led me to go into three theories. First is maybe this theory will tell us that the constants are there because of a prior reason, which is debunked by most physicians. Second is perhaps we're in one of an infinite series of universe where in our universe, our constants are made just perfect. But the third is, I think it could be intentional, that there must have been a force behind, and he might have been a good mathematician or a good physicist to make sure that life, prospered in this universe. Now, if I take those three possibilities and apply the, Occam's razor, which takes the simplest explanation is the more correct, I would probably lean to it being intentional, and there could be a force behind why life is here. What are your views on that?
Can I start really quickly? I'll be very brief.
By all means.
I think I was going to go piece by piece through a lot of that, but I just want to throw out that, I think the very last thing you said, Morgan, you can hear me. Don't do that yet, please. I was just typing it, unless you already have. I was typing a thing into the crew chat here while you were speaking, and I just wanted to. Cool. Sorry. So what I was saying is, I think the very last thing that you said really elucidates the reasoning for a lot of the other things you said. You were talking about Occam's razor, and you said it is the simplest explanation, I believe, is most likely to be true. But that's not accurate. Occam's razor is the one that makes the least assumptions is most likely to be true. That's what it actually is. And so when we talk about anything about a god, anything about anything supernatural about life, that is the most possible assumptions. A naturalistic explanation is going to fall upon I don't know what this is, maybe, but it's something to do with nature. It has the same background as every other thing that I've ever seen ever. Uniformitarianism, physics doesn't change depending on where you are in the universe. It's just the same stuff doing the same stuff. That's a very minor assumption to make. Whereas any supernatural assumption is pretty freaking big. There's this whole other realm of existence, and there's a guy that lives there that has really detailed interest in how and when and why and where and with what holes I have sex, and that's a whole other thing that you are now making big assumptions on. So it may be a simpler explanation. A guy did it, and a guy's in charge, and this guy use magic. That is a much simpler explanation, but it is not actually adherent to Occam's razor. And I think that is a good place to start, because everything else you said about the Big Bang, about the universe and all these things, there's a lot of assumptions you're making, and that goes against the logical principle that you're trying to espouse here. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think that's just proof to me that, it can be a very satisfying intellectual conversation. So thanks for your answer. I appreciate it.
So to Forrest's point, right, like simple doesn't necessarily mean correct. It's a simpler explanation to say that when we walk outside and see the horizon expand on the, out in the distance, that means that the earth is flat. It appears to be flat, but it isn't, right? There's a lot about the world that we live in, the reality that we live in, that we would like a simple answer to, but the simplicity of it all just isn't reflective of reality. Now, to me, it sounds like your overall argument is a combination of an argument from incredulity, that it's like, I can't conceive of what could be, quote unquote, before the Big Bang, or what could have instigated the Big Bang if it was, in fact, in something that required an instigation, and an argument from fine tuning, right? That it's like, oh, well, things are incredibly seemingly built for us, right? And the common response to that is like a puddle analogy, right? Like a puddle feels as though the hole that it is in was made perfectly for it, right? But the hole wasn't made for the puddle. The puddle formed because of the constraints of the hole, which very frequently is I think a decent answer for the fine tuning problem, right? It's like we wouldn't be here to appreciate the fine tuning if it didn't appear to be fine tuned. If life couldn't emerge here, it wouldn't, and there would be nothing to appreciate it. So, to me, right off the bat, those are the three really kind of issues that I have with what you have to say. I also think that not having an answer for things like what came before, quote unquote, the Big Bang, because that seems to be an idea that I don't know about you, Forrest, but I've seen that one making the rounds quite a bit recently, that it's like, oh, well, if you can't explain this ultimate cause, then you can't explain anything that comes from it. And the answer that I frequently give to that is that it's like, well, that's not true. In forensic science, we can investigate murders all the time without knowing where the murder weapon was manufactured, right? Like we do this constantly in our lives. There's a way to kind of reduce this to like a solipsistic, how can you know anything? But I find that that's kind of a waste of time, to be honest, because the difference between the atheist or the agnostic position and the theist position, I think is a matter of one additional assumption. From a theist perspective, it's like, well, the world around us, we can trust our senses. We can, trust that nature is consistent through time, and we can trust the laws of the world around us because God put them into place. And from an atheistic or an agnostic perspective, we might look at the same thing and say, we can in fact trust all of those, but the reason we can trust all of those isn't clear yet. We're working on it. And it doesn't end up in that same turtles all the way down situation that I think the theist position frequently falls into, because then it's like you can just ask, okay, well, if God instituted all of these laws, what institutes God, right? And then, so on and so forth ad nauseum, ad infinitum, right? So to me, both of these, any explanation for the origin of all is going to be circular because we don't have all of the answers. That's okay, right? But what's not okay is to take...
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead. Actually, I feel like I've said my piece.
Yeah, I think you worded that very beautifully. And it really stems from my question that, it seems that something came out of nothing. Like, to me, nature is not supposed to allow that. If nature can create itself, then what did? I can't postulate that it was created by some natural force. To me, the only plausible explanation is there must be some force which is not limited by space and time. And, it might sound magical, but that's where, the belief comes in. So, but you worded it very beautifully. I agree. There's some things we just can't answer. And I am very content with that.
So I do take issue. I appreciate what you're saying, and I feel like I understand where you're coming from. But I would take issue with the way that you're saying it. Saying something created nothing. Or sorry, nothing. Something came from nothing. I don't know that that's true. When we talk about the Big Bang isn't just the beginning of the universe. It's the effects that we see from that. It's the expansion of the whole universe, and it's not just one singular uniform event. There's this cosmic inflation period. And there's all this other shit going on in there that's real weird. And there's a point where our math kind of breaks down, but like, we don't know what the very, very, very beginning really was. And there's a few really good models and theories that help out, but like, we're just not 100% sure yet. There's kind of this limitation to our math and to our models that this just kind of falls apart, and we're not sure yet. And we certainly don't know what was before any of that, because you're asking what happened before time started, and that question doesn't even make any sense. And so to say something came from nothing, I feel like is a gross oversimplification of all the things we don't know. I don't even know what nothing is. I don't know if nothing has ever existed because I've never seen a nothing. I don't know what a nothing would look like. I have no samples of nothing upon which to run tests. I don't know what nothing is capable of. What I do know is that the total net energy of the universe is zero. The total sum of all positive and all negative energy in the cosmos is zero. So if you're asking how did the total energy go from 0 to 0, that's not a big stretch of the imagination, and it certainly doesn't violate the first law of thermodynamics for me to say that 0 equals 0. All I know is that there's something out there that I don't know. And I don't think that it's necessary to invent this specter that can exist outside of space and time and then pretend like we know what that even means in order to explain away a little pocket of ignorance that you should be excited about. You should be wanting to know more about that rather than concocting this magical guy that can fill in the void.
Okay. Yep. I agree with everything that you said. But yeah, it has, I just can't understand how, everything is precisely tuned with all these constants in the universe, and that we are here just because of, there wasn't someone orchestrating behind it. I might be a little vague, but but I do like what you both said, that it's, there's a question to the unknown, and I am good with that. I guess that's it for me today. Thank you so much, Forrest and Erika. Take your time for me today.
I appreciate
Thank
you
you,
listening,
Dondi.
Dondi.
Yeah, we appreciate that. I mean, sometimes it's okay to say, we agree to disagree on where the line should be drawn. But I like a little pushback, a little bit of sparring before Sarah. Maybe we take a break until next time. So thank you for calling in, Dondi. Take care.
Thank you. You guys have a great evening. Bye.
Don't tell me what to do. Take care.
And man, you can hear my dogs going nuts in the background too. I wanted to make that clear. And I was going to mute myself, but then it's like it's a period of time when I have to talk. So it's, I'm a little bit between a rock and a hard place.
And like a subscriber, Jimmy will have to go on a polyamorous dating show to win some prize money.
Wait, I want to do that. So also hit like and subscribe, and then go to patreon.com/calltheline. I was trying to make you laugh and ruin the take. That's why that silly face earlier. If I was on a polyamorous dating show, I would just choose everybody. Except Frederick. Leave a comment.